Hey, what's up, my dude and dudettes? I want to try to cut out everything that is not absolutely necessary for our lesson so that you have time to get through the material and take your vocab quiz today. So I don't want to have you be doing my class for too long. So the quote of the day is on this side. Rick Warren said, "When everyone wants to be a leader, you get conflict, not progress." So we're going to be taking a look at what happens when two people both want to be leader. So our daily objective, what you need to be able to do by the end of the time that we're done reading and asking questions. I can explain the conflict between Ralph and Jack when they set out to find the beast. So Ralph and Jack are going to go together to set out to find the beast. And you're going to need to be able to explain the conflict that is happening between them. Good luck, my friends. At the end of this lesson will be your vocab quiz. Okay, everyone, so I need you to go ahead and get your Lord of the Flies novels open to page 115. If you don't have your book out or open, go ahead and pause and do that now. Okay, so it is important to read with me. You need to read with me because when you read with me, you become a better reader. Not only that, but you will need to look back at some passages. Our focus for these pages, what is the conflict between Ralph and Jack as they go searching for the beast? So what is this conflict that's happening between them? Okay, everyone. So we are going to start reading a little past halfway down page 115 at Ralph Sat Up. So if you remember, they checked out the rock castle. They did not find the beast, and the boys suggested that maybe they should go check the place where Sam and Eric thought that they saw the beast. So now we see this kind of conflict that's starting between Ralph and Jack. So pay attention to it. A little more than halfway at Ralph Sat Up, 115. Ralph sat up. "Well, we shan't find what we're looking for at this rate." One by one, they stood up, twitching rags into place. Ralph looked at Jack. "Now for the mountain." "Shouldn't we go back to Piggy?" said Maurice. "Before dark?" The twins nodded like one boy. "Yes, that's right. Let's go up there in the morning." Ralph looked out and saw the sea. "We've got to start the fire again." "You haven't got Piggy's specs," said Jack, "so you can't." "Then we'll find out if the mountain's clear." Maurice spoke, hesitating, not wanting to seem a funk. "Suppose the beast is up there?" Jack brandished his spear. "We'll kill it." The sun seemed a little cooler. He slashed with the spear. "What are we waiting for?" "I suppose," said Ralph, "if we keep on by the sea this way, we'll come out below the burnt bit, and then we can climb the mountain." Once more Jack led them along by the suck and heave of the blinding sea. Once more Ralph dreamed, letting his skillful feet deal with the difficulties of the path. Yet here his feet seemed less skillful than before. For most of the way they were forced right down to the bare rock by the water and had to edge along between that and the dark luxuriance of the forest. There were little cliffs to be scaled, some to be used as paths, lengthy traverses where one could use hands as well as feet. Here and there they could clamber over wave-wet rock, leaping across clear pools that the tide had left. They came to a gully that split the narrow foreshore like a defense. This seemed to have no bottom, and they peered awe-stricken into the gloomy crack where water gurgled. Then the wave came back. The gully boiled before them, and spray dashed up to the very creepers so that the boys were wet and shrieking. They tried the forest, but it was thick and woven like a bird's nest. In the end, they had to jump one by one, waiting till the water sank, and even so, some of them got a second drenching. After that, rocks seemed to be growing impassable, so they sat for a time, letting their rags dry and watching the clipped outlines of the rollers that moved so slowly past the island. They found fruit in a haunt of bright little birds that hovered like insects. Then Ralph said they were going too slowly. He himself climbed a tree and parted the canopy, and saw the square head of the mountain seeming still a great way off. Then they tried to hurry along the rocks, and Robert cut his knee quite badly, and they had to recognize that this path must be taken slowly if they were to be safe. So they proceeded after that as if they were climbing a dangerous mountain until the rocks became an uncompromising cliff, overhung with impossible jungle and falling sheer into the sea. Okay, so now they're really, as a group, all the boys except for Piggy, walking up this mountain. So Ralph looked at the sun critically. Early evening, after tea time at any rate. "I don't remember this cliff," said Jack, crestfallen. "So this must be the bit of the coast I missed." Ralph nodded. "Let me think." By now, Ralph had no self-consciousness in the public thinking, but would treat the day's decisions as though he were playing chess. The only trouble was that he would never be a very good chess player. He thought of the little ones and Piggy. Vividly, he imagined Piggy by himself, huddled in a shelter that was silent except for the sounds of nightmare. We can't leave the little ones alone with Piggy, not all night. The other boy said nothing but stood round, watching him. If we went back, we'd take hours. Jack cleared his throat and spoke in a queer, tight voice. We mustn't let anything happen to Piggy, must we? Okay, everyone, so we are going to look at that passage one more time. Ralph says, let me think. By now, Ralph had no self-consciousness in public thinking, but would treat the day's decisions as though he were playing chess. The only trouble was that he would never be a very good chess player. He thought of the little ones and Piggy. Vividly, he imagined Piggy by himself, huddled in a shelter that was silent except for the sounds of nightmare. We can't leave the little ones alone with Piggy, not all night. The other boy said nothing, but stood round, watching him. If we went back, we should take hours. Jack cleared his throat and spoke in a queer, tight voice. We mustn't let anything happen to Piggy, must we? Okay, so my first question to you about this passage. Why does Ralph compare his argument, or kind of the words they're saying, with Jack to playing chess? Why does he compare this conversation to playing chess? Go ahead and answer that now in one sentence. Okay, so the reason why he might call it chess is because he has to use strategy when talking and trying to outwit Jack. So he's got to think about every word he says, because it's almost like the two are trying to be smarter than the other. So then he needs to think about everything he says. So it's like strategy. Then my second question that goes with that. What do you think Jack's tone of voice was when he said, we mustn't let anything happen to Piggy, must we? Why do you think that he said it the way that you said that he said it? Okay, so Jack is attacking Ralph for seeming weak and saying they need to not go up the mountain because Piggy will be alone. So essentially, like, he wants to go up the mountain, but Ralph is like, well, we shouldn't leave Piggy alone all night. So he's kind of attacking him, making him seem not brave by saying they need to go back and check on Piggy. So I'm guessing he probably says the line sarcastically or really viciously. So he probably says like, oh, we mustn't let anything happen to Piggy, must we? Like sarcastically, or like really viciously. Like, oh, we mustn't let anything happen to Piggy, must we? Not 100% sure, but anyway, he's using it to attack Ralph, saying he's not brave. Okay, so we're going to continue at Ralph tapped his teeth about 3/4 of the way down the page on 117. Ralph tapped his teeth with the dirty point of Eric's spear. If we go across, he glanced around him. Someone's got to go across the island and tell Piggy we'll be back after dark. Bill spoke unbelievingly. Through the forest by himself? Now? We can't spare more than one. Simon pushed his way to Ralph's elbow. I'll go if you like. I don't mind, honestly. Before Ralph had time to reply, he smiled quickly, turned, and climbed into the forest. Ralph looked back at Jack, seeing him infuriatingly for the first time. Jack, that time you went the whole way to the Castle Rock. Jack glowered. Yes. You came along a part of the shore, below the mountain, beyond there. Yes. And then I found a pig run. I went for miles. So the pig run must be somewhere in there. Ralph nodded. He pointed at the forest. Everybody agreed, sagely. All right, then. We'll smash a way through till we find the pig run. He took a step and halted. Wait a minute, though. Where does the pig run go to? The mountain, said Jack. I told you. He sneered. Don't you want to go to the mountain? Ralph sighed, sensing the rising antagonism, understanding that this was how Jack felt as soon as he ceased to lead. I was thinking of the light. We'll be stumbling about. We were going to look for the beast. There won't be enough light. I don't mind going, said Jack hotly. I'll go when we get there. Won't you? Would you rather go back to the shelters and tell Piggy? Now it was Ralph's turn to flush, but he spoke despairingly, out of the new understanding that Piggy had given him. Why do you hate me? The boy stirred uneasily as though something indecent had been said. The silence lengthened. Ralph, still hot and hurt, turned away first. Come on. He led the way and set himself as by right to hack at the tangles. Jack brought up the rear, displaced and brooding. Okay, so we've got one more question for you. Ralph says, I was thinking of the light. We'll be stumbling about. We were going to look for the beast. There won't be enough light. I don't mind going, said Jack hotly. I'll go when we get there. Won't you? Would you rather go back to the shelter and tell Piggy? Now it was Ralph's turn to flush, but he spoke despairingly, out of the new understanding that Piggy had given him. Why do you hate me? The boy stirred uneasily as though something indecent had been said. So my question to you, what I want you to do is identify two things from this passage in this conversation. Identify two things that this conversation reveals about the conflict between Ralph and Jack. So what two things can you gain, information can you gain from this interaction? So some possible things you could have said. Jack is attacking Ralph by suggesting he's not brave. He's saying, would you rather go back to the shelters and tell Piggy? He's essentially saying, are you too scared to go up the mountain? You need to go back and talk to Piggy. And then Ralph confronts him directly. So he's kind of done playing games. He says, why do you hate me? In other words, why do you keep being a jerk to me? So you see this confrontation, and they're both playing games, and they're both getting really frustrated with each other.